Good evening, and welcome to the Omega Files. I'm your host, Dr. Freedom, and tonight we're going to talk about the episode, The Tsuranga Conundrum. It almost sounds like a weird South American tune, doesn't it? Tsuranga. Oh, okay, let's move on. Let's start with Josh. Go on ahead. You take the first one.
I thought this episode was just way too convoluted to even follow, really, because I can only watch it one time all the way through, and it felt like it was trying to be a big finish audio in television format, and a lot of the stuff and a lot of the plot points just kind of fell by the wayside, and it was just not written well, and the alien was just there to be there, and none of it made any sense, really. Like, why did they... It didn't even explain, like, why they were at that junkyard in the first place, and then they basically got exploded and just got on a ship and, like, magically got fixed. It was really, really odd to me, but I might have missed a couple plot points or something, because I only watched it, like, one time, so...
Still trying to contemplate this one.
Me too. I don't know what I watched. Like, it was really, really bad.
It literally just, but it just moves so fast. You know, there's such a thing as pacing, and this one just went, you know, like the Roadrunner on meth. Oh man. Okay, yeah, let's go about your DWC. What's your angle on this one?
I've watched this episode twice already. I'm struggling to even remember it. It was that forgettable an episode. A lot of it did feel like, on second watch, it felt like a sort of remake of Alien. In a sense, they even had an android in it, which I noticed quite quickly. Something I did notice on second watch, I mean, something Josh, they got caught in an explosion and then suddenly magically got healed. Well, technically, yes, technically. In terms of the Doctor, when we first see the Doctor get up, she's completely lost it. You're going to hear the hearing's not great. Really, her spleen's not very good. And initially, yeah, on the first watch, I thought, fix that quickly. On the second watch, actually pay attention, instantly holding her spleen. So she is very much damaged throughout this. But what else can you say from that? I don't really know, because what's to say? There's no real... I didn't feel invested in this. I couldn't really get that interested in many of the characters all that much. And they had all the... they went to all the trouble of getting one of the character who was playing the engineer. He's either Reggie Yates or Doc Brown. I get those two mixed up. He's a comedian, presenter, and rapper over here in the UK. So all of us to get someone as big as him. And his character's kind of a bit... Well, actually, to be honest, he's a bit more interesting than his sister, who you think would be a bit more interesting than that being the... as for the alien itself, I said before, it's kind of like a cross between visually wise, it's a cross between a nose and a Slovene, and it didn't really look all that threatening, frankly, for something that is obviously supposed to be an homage to Alien. Or as far as I'm concerned, homage to Alien, you could have made a bit of a more threatening character, but when it's not even carnivorous, I don't know what you can do. This episode was just forgettable. It's not one I'm going to write home about. Like Hyde, it's one I forget quite a bit. I thought it existed for a long time.
It's definitely one that, you know, I think you could have had Bebo show up from Legends, and it would have probably been a bit more threatening of a villain. Okay, Bo, your turn. What'd you make of this one?
Yeah, I'm still having trouble remembering it. But what I can remember, I did like the PTING creature in it. I thought Jodie was in top form as the Doctor. I like the pregnant man as well. The I thought Graham and Ryan were great in this episode as well. Yeah, I liked all the characters. I liked the general. What she was good in it. Yeah, that's all I can say right now because I can't think of what else to say for this episode.
Alrighty. Philip Archer.
Hello. What do I think? I don't understand, like what Josh said earlier, I don't understand why they were on a junk planet in the first place. If they needed spare parts, they could have gone anywhere that's safer than going to a junk planet to get what they wanted. The story itself with that little creature, you know, to be honest, this story was just for 5-year-olds, to be honest. That's all it's aimed for. It weren't aimed for anybody else with any higher intelligence than 5-year-olds. The Doctor, she's a little bit better in this, just a little bit, because she had a bit more to do and a lot more running around to do. So she was a bit more bearable. But I'm getting tired. I'm sorry if I say this badly, but I'm getting tired of Ryan constantly talking about family. And you know, it's like every episode, about my nan, about my mum, about my dad. Talk about something else, for God's sake, and give us something else about you, rather than your parents and your family. And, okay, yes, she shined a little bit more in this, but not too much, but she did get a lot to do. As for the, what was the android's point? I know someone said he's there to look after the space yacht woman, but she's an adrenaline junkie, so her story's about reliance on drugs. So that's another little thread they were playing on, about overtaking drugs and being dependent on that. I don't know. It was just a mere story for me. I don't know. And you got little Easter eggs. If you look on the panel, you see little tiny images of past enemies of the Doctor on the panel that she was working on. I don't know why that popped up, but there you go. Otherwise, it was a bit of a pooish story, and it gets 0 PTINGs from me at the moment. But there you go.
For Christ's sake, Ryan, it's Doctor Who, not Family Affair. Okay, Connor.
Pile of stinking crap.
Okay, quick, decisive, and to the point. AJ.
Hi. Yeah, for me, I didn't see the Aliens movie angle. I saw more of Gremlins in space. You know, the funny little creature just running around and causing havoc and destroying things. Most of this episode is kind of forgettable. I wrote notes down so I can remember a little bit. I don't know, I just felt really meh, very middle of the road. I was happy that the Sonic got toasted in this episode, but then it sadly came back. I'm not sure. I was more interested, honestly, about Yos, the pregnant man, you know, how their species reproduces, you know, basically boys have boys and girls have girls. It sounds like child logic, you know, how kids would think. So I'm really torn about this episode at the moment. We're 5 episodes in, and the first 3 were pretty good, and these 2, number 4 and 5, are sort of but we'll get more into the nitty-gritty after that.
Alrighty. Okay, let's move on to Paul.
All right, bad bits, I think we'll start with. I think there's a few of them. Like DWC, I think the plot felt a bit like a weak Alien story. About 10 minutes into it, I was half expecting Sigourney Weaver to jump out. I mean, we had the virtual Lance Henriksen with regards to Ronan the android. I was half expecting the alien to pop out of that pregnant father with his big stomach, if Chibs was going to go down that avenue. The story was, for me, a little bit too new wave PC with regards to pregnant father, for one. Don't get me wrong, I've watched similar things, such as Twins with Arnie, but that script was great and it worked with the film, and I enjoyed that. But this episode, it just seemed like Chibs wanted to tick a box for it. Granted, it gave Ryan and Graham more to do, so the Doctor and Yaz could get on with saving the ship, which probably wouldn't have worked the other way around, I suppose, but it just feels like it was a bit too contrived. One thing, I think you'll all agree, in order to be a good storyteller, the character trait should continue throughout story to story, unless, of course, something happens to change those traits. So unless I've missed something with Ryan, why is his balance coordination issue, i.e. his dyspraxia, seemingly vanished from the story? The team were blasted by a sonic mine, and anyone who knows anything about the science of sound waves and sonic waves would know that even with someone who didn't have Ryan's disability would be severely damaged by it. Look at what happened with Jodie. She actually acted it really well. She showed the symptoms. But apart from that, the last time we saw Ryan lose his balance was back in the first episode, I believe. It seems like the writer has forgotten about that, and Ryan seems perfectly fine now with his balance. The pace of the story was all over the place, I'm sorry to say. Sometimes it was great, but then it just slowed down middling, probably caused by a little bit too much dialogue, I think, between Yaz and Ryan. Don't think that helped much. One thing for me, though, there's still no sense of danger. It's really missing from the current series. I know it's for the family and the kids want to be scared. I mean, but if we remember back in the days of, say, Tom Baker, for instance, Mary Whitehouse was complaining loudly about it being too scary for kids, but say, for instance, Seeds of Doom, Brain of Morbius, etc. But that's what all of us as kids enjoyed. That's what all the kids wanted to see. I mean, how many children with the past 5 episodes now run behind the sofa and hide? I wouldn't think that many, because that's what Doctor Who used to be all about. As for the PTING, I think Chibnall has been watching reruns of Ally McBeal. It reminded me of that dancing baby and a bit of Gremlins, I'm sorry to say. But that's the bad stuff. I mean, kind of. So here's the good stuff. This is what I thought they did all right. I think Jodie was improved vastly. She even used her sonic without the pause and sideways stance. Hallelujah. The team's acting was fantastic. I have no issues anymore with them. The special guest stars were great, but I really enjoyed Astos, played by Brett Goldstein. I thought his performance was really good, as was David Shields as the android. Overall, I think the highlight of this episode was just how much better Jodie is as the Doctor now, and she seems to be settling into the role. That's all I got to say.
All right. Okay, let's move on to Texas Tim.
Well, I'm going to disagree with everybody. I thought this was an excellent episode. I think it was very well paced. It moved very quickly. You had something for everybody to do for a change. And you had an interesting setup. As far as there not being any danger, what are you talking about? You have a little monster running around eating the ship that they're in. And it's basically your old school base under siege story from the classic series, but with a twist on it that I mean, as far as danger goes, you've got two time bombs going off at once. You got a pregnant man who's about to drop the baby, and then you've got the impending bomb because the base you're trying to go to is going to blow up the ship because they don't want that alien infection. So, I mean, you've got a lot going on here, and I thought it was handled very well. You'd almost think he reverse engineered the episode because every character had something to do. Every character was important to the story, to the resolution of the story, and I can't think what anybody's complaining about. It was a lot of fun, and it passed very quickly. It was like a perfect 50-minute episode of Doctor Who. I agree with those that have said that Jodie was great in this one. She's very, very much an alien Doctor at this point. That's something we haven't mentioned before, but she's very alien. She's not a young, foppish, good-looking guy, with a babe on his arm. What she has is a crew. And it works out pretty well so far. I mean, we've complained about previous episodes about there not being enough for 3 companions to do, but I think this one kind of handled them all pretty deftly. And that's my take on it.
All righty then. Okay, Graham.
Yeah, how we doing, guys? I can cover what Tim said with regards to the companions. They did have a lot to do in this episode, and everybody had equal measure and had something to do. That was a good point. The episode started off decent enough. All right. Why they were on the junk planet, we still don't know, but hey, it was set up. Interesting character with the character of Axel. It's a shame he got bumped off early. I thought he might have been a bit more integral to the story than just being a simple red shirt. But hey ho, they had a lot of guest cast to cram in there, I suppose. Then we get to the PTING. As much as the acting was fine in this, I just couldn't take the damn thing seriously. Gremlins? Possibly. Aliens? Possibly. This is what happens when Shrek dry humps an adipose in a cold winter night, people. Whoever came up with that concept art, nah, no my cup of tea. But I will say, and I'm going to underline this, folks, before you all start in the comments. Yes, Jodie was one of the best things about this episode. Then we get to the subplots. You've got the android and the general, and our engineer brother. Okay, different. And you've got the 3 men and a baby concept. You can have your own individual opinion on that all you like, but it gave Ryan and Graham something to do. That's fine, no problem there. It just seems to me that, like Tim said, they did try and cram an awful lot in here. Some of it may have got lost in the shuffle. It wasn't awful, but it could have been improved for me.
Okay, now what it did remind me of more than anything was Gremlins. And the reason being is because, Gremlins, it's that happy-go-lucky, the creatures are going to wipe everybody out, because they're eating everything left and right. And then you get to that one sad, depressing moment where Phoebe Cates' character starts telling you about how her dad died. And that's what it felt like when they got to the part where Ryan's telling about his mother. I'm like, okay, here comes the part where mother/father died, and it's gonna, and that to me was the part where things kind of really slowed down. And it's like, to me, I think they could have saved that scene for another episode, but at the same time, you had other things that were running by kind of lightning fast. So I'd have to go back and rewatch this one, definitely, because there's things I could have missed because it just seemed like it was kind of all over the place. And then you get to that one scene and it's like everything went to a crawl. And that's the point where I almost nodded off. But after that, we're right back into the story. Things are going along well again. And like I said, it wasn't horrible, but once again, while you did have the bomb about to go off, wipe out the ship, because it's going to be a remote, a remote detonated bomb. You also had the fact this creature could conceivably, eat a hole through the outer hull, suck everybody out into space, or just plain take out the engine. And that way you're still in the same conundrum. Now you're on a ship with no engines and you're waiting for the creature to eventually eat a hole through the outer hull and blow you out into space. But there's no direct threat from the creature, is there? It doesn't want to eat flesh. It doesn't want to eat people. It just wants to eat energy and the ship. And I think that's one part where they've been really kind of lacking. It's like, okay, it's harmful, but it's only doing what's in its nature. And it's like, it just peeves me a little bit. But at the same time, I don't know. I kind of enjoyed it because the bits with Graham and Ryan were really, really great. Jodie was on point, through the whole thing. Yaz had a lot more to do in this one than she's had in the last couple of episodes. Well, she had a bit to do in Rosa, but still it seemed like they utilized her a bit more in this one than they have before. So it has its good points. And like I said, it's just at one point where they get to that scene where you have to talk about how mom died. That's what just kind of kicked it off kilter for me altogether. Okay, but all right, we've got hands flying up. So let's hear what your guys' other opinions on this thing are, because I know you got other things. Texas Tim had his hand up first, so go on ahead.
Well, to your point about Ryan and the scene, they had to establish that he had a bit of a deadbeat father. I'm not sure if they already established that, but that was so he could have his denouement moment with the pregnant man at the end, because he taught that guy, hey, you can be a dad too. And that was what the message they were trying to convey with that was. As far as the alien eating the ship, that's very dangerous. Yeah, it's supposed to be cutesy and whatnot. Another point is that if they had made the alien terrifying, then they wouldn't have been able to get away with it. It would have put a whole different spin on the episode. And I don't think the BBC would have been okay with that, since this is now really entrenched as a family show. And I think it was better to do that to make it more popular for children, probably. I don't know if they're going to sell toys or anything, but the point of the alien going around eating all the energy in the ship is very dangerous for everybody on the ship. So I don't think that that's a negative either. I did like also one thing I forgot to mention was the bits where they mentioned other programs like Call the Midwife, obviously, and then of course Hamilton. So that was a nice shout out to some of the popular things these days that were relevant to this particular story. But yeah, again, I think this was very good, very, very well handled, and it wasn't boring at all.
Yeah, a few things. That whole gag with Jodie when she's going on about all her different doctorates, Lego, cotton candy, I think they went a little bit too far with that gag for my liking. She should have stopped somewhere after, I think it was engineering or something. Also, the PTING, how many times did they use that word in that one scene, where they're talking about it and it's like PTING, 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 PTING. That got really annoying too. And one other thing, with the doctor being hurt, we've seen the doctor, with a hurt hand or whatever, and use a little energy to regenerate, to heal. Why didn't Jodie use that to heal herself a little bit and also to lure the PTING? Because, it's energy. So the PTING could have fed on that energy, like a trap or whatever. So I thought maybe that they missed a little bit of a plot there that they could have used as well.
Well, we're past the 15-hour regeneration thing. I think that's what they're trying to get past on.
No, Matt Smith did it. Remember when he partially healed himself at one point, where I think he hurt his hand or something.
What annoyed me, right? In the beginning of Jodie's run, we thought she'd be a hands-on doctor, because she's good at building things, right? When that PTING thing swallowed her sonic, I thought, oh, good, she won't have a sonic. She has to be hands-on. But no, it can eat everything else, but it can't eat the sonic. And I'm like, for God's sake, eat the sonic, man. So she's got to do things with her own hand. That's a cop-out for me, it's a cop-out, basically.
First of all, how can they survive the sonic mine? Second of all, the PTING, oh my God. I don't know why it was designed. It was pointless. I agree that the concept of eating the ship around them is a little bit different. We've not really seen anything like that before. But a little thing like that is just... They could have just stood there and laughed at it, and then that would have been the episode over. Because it felt like a Pixar film. And it felt like Chibnall's pitch to Pixar for when his career at Doctor Who is over. And it just kind of fell flat, I thought. The ship name was good, Tsuranga. But there's just not a lot that appealed about this episode. It did feel like it was written for a 5-year-old. Like, you could have put it on CBeebies, got a few extra views, and then, that's great. But I just wish that there was just a little more action, yeah, because it always feels like that the threats are second to the characters, and that's great. But like I said last week, Chibnall needs to find a way to balance plot and character rather than just character over plot, because it doesn't work, I don't think, for a whole series. It works for a few episodes because the whole point about it, you've got to really relate to the characters, and these characters are all great. I think Jodie was fantastic in this episode, actually. She was the Doctor. She felt really alien. But I think one thing, the trap that they fell into as well, was it's too much exposition, too much explaining and not much doing. And that's where it just gets boring, and it is a little bit of a snooze fest, unfortunately. It felt a little bit Love and Monsters. And that is a real shame, because we had 4 episodes that were really solid. Even last week, which was slightly worse, but it was still great. This one, we're at the midway point now, and it really should be starting to ramp up, and it's just not. It's kind of fell off a cliff a little bit. But hopefully next week it picks up.
Basically, I wanted to go back to what Tim said about it being boring. It wasn't the fact that it was boring that was the problem. It was the fact that there was like 8 plot points
I never said it was
that
boring.
follow at one time, and it was too much going on at one time for you to follow on one watch. Like, you would have to watch it at least 2 or 3 times to understand everything that was going on, or maybe I just didn't understand what was going on. I'm not, it could just be me, or it could be, it was just a lot going on for a 50-minute time span, in my opinion.
Yeah, this one I'm definitely gonna have to go back and rewatch. I really am. Okay,
Yeah, me too, because I'm confused.
yeah.
You know what? Can someone correct me? You know that flight path through the asteroid belt, and they gone through that loads of times, and that creature's always attacked ships. You know, if they have, then why are they going through a place where they know they're going to get attacked by creatures like that?
I have no idea. I think originally the flight path was supposed to avoid that area, but they got pulled into there by the, I guess the mine going off or something like that, to come rescue them. And one thing I do got to mention, yeah, I have to agree. Whoever designed the sonic mine, no wonder they're lying around in junkyards, because if one can go off on you point blank and everybody's still able to get picked up by a rescue ship, then you must really suck.
That captain said that the PTING had basically devoured her entire species or her entire command?
Fleet.
How did that happen? Because they don't eat humans. The thing about the PTING is that it changed from wanting to eat things to wanting to eat energy halfway through. So did Chibnall suddenly decide actually to make it a little more threatening? I'll just say that the PTING ate a whole fleet as well, like of people. But we'll just forget that we mentioned half an hour ago that it doesn't eat humans.
Well, I think what she was inferring was they normally attack in swarms, and they attacked their fleet, and that's how everybody got killed. Was they literally ate through the ships? Right. At least that's the thing I took away from it.
Well, I was going to point out, I never said it was boring. I think it was pretty straightforward plot, and I thought it was very fast moving. Maybe that's why people feel like they need to watch it a second time. But I think all the points were there. I thought that's what made it a good episode. It was very quick, and there weren't that many lulls in the plot, except for maybe the point you mentioned about Ryan talking to Yaz about. But again, I think that was an important plot point they had to get across about his father not being there for him. But again, I think there have been other examples of this series so far of where the plot did kind of stand still. And we've talked about the issues with pacing. I thought this was pretty straightforward and just went right through. Now maybe if you didn't pay attention, you might miss a point or two or a plot point or something. But I thought that this was a very effective use of all the characters and the guest characters, all of which had something to do to get till the end of the episode. And it all paid off pretty well. I don't know what more anybody would want from Doctor Who. I thought it was very effective.
Yeah, a few things. The first thing, the name of the ship, the Tsuranga, is actually a name of a town in New Zealand. So it's on the North Island. I thought I mentioned that. I looked it up. The second thing, seriously, the Doctor just lets the PTING go into space after they feed it that bomb. So basically it's free to do that to another ship once it's passing by again. I thought you would have, captured it and taken it back to that junk planet so that it could feed on the junk planet, basically, to its heart's content. I think that was really reckless and sort of stupid of the Doctor. So,
that's a good point, AJ. Well done. What was I going to say? Do you know when Yaz had it wrapped up in that blanket thing? Why couldn't they just and decided to boot it down the corridor? Why couldn't they just carry it to the nearest airlock and throw it out? But why couldn't they just throw it out the airlock?
Because remember, the creature was only stunned for a few seconds. That's why it was starting. It was starting to move again. Remember, this thing can eat through anything. So, if you just happen to be holding it as it eats through the blanket, yeah, it can do you physical damage at that point. That's what I thought happened.
Yeah, I know, but nah, I don't buy that, man. She could have just dumped it out in the airlock straight away, man.
Yeah, but then what would have ate the bomb?
Okay.
Well, I was going to say the same thing you just said. Also, to AJ's point, yeah, they could have had the thing blow up inside the airlock, and there you go. Then Mary Whitehouse would be turning over in her grave, and the Doctor they'd be criticizing the Doctor for killing a poor little baby creature that was so cute. So they couldn't win that way. They had to let the creature go. I mean, there's no other way to end the story. Now, you're right. They could have had a subplot where, okay, now we're going to take it over here. But this is shorthand, though. That could have happened after the story, just like the people that were complaining that we don't know what happened. The story ended. They're on their way. It's done. You don't need to follow up on everything and have well, wouldn't it have been better? Yeah, it might have been, but that's not the story they wanted to tell.
Yeah, I think that the point that AJ was saying there is, again, they're just making Jodie a little too good, I think. She's letting every monster free to roam the universe again and cause more havoc. She's not actually stopping them. Now, unless that is going to come to a full circle where they all come back in episode 10, then I can kind of see that, but it doesn't look that way. And it's just kind of, she's too much of a good Samaritan, I think, for the Doctor, which is something that I pointed out last week. As for the guest cast, the Scottish one, I can't remember her name. I guess the wife of the one that died at the beginning. I found her incredibly annoying. I don't know why. She was a bit jumpy. It was like she was trying to, they told her, act like an alien. So she just went bizarre. It just kind of felt weirdly acted, I think. I will say that actually when I saw this episode in the trailer, and I didn't know what it was about, I said it kind of felt a little bit Black Mirror. And it did. I thought the set actually was amazing. It did give me the same Black Mirror vibes throughout that I got there. But the story didn't do a set like that justice. And I feel it does actually feel like they've got the capabilities now with DNEG of doing all this CGI and stuff and all these set designs, and they've got the money for it. And they're just kind of like throwing that into 50 minutes and hoping that it kind of sticks with the fans. And they're kind of leaving the story to chance. And I don't know, is that the way that they want to go? I guess it's not. And I guess that it's just a bad week. But, is this a point where the CGI and the new capabilities of the visuals is going to slightly start to be a bit of a detriment to the show? A bit like the prequels in Star Wars.
Just wanted to put point one. That's because they needed to feed the bomb that it would gorge on some before it actually start going off and through the whole. So now, just check it, and it will just fed on another ship. Now with energy, it's gonna wait a bit. And wait.
Yeah, when they were in the flight deck for the ship, I believe it was the flight deck, it looked like a TARDIS console room. Am I wrong in thinking that? Or with the central column, and then you got all the white, and then you got the panels and the screens behind them. I thought that was kind of strange.
Well, remember, it's a ship that was designed to be autopiloted. It was, only controlled, or it was programmed to go do a certain thing. Never, was designed to have actual physical pilots in it. At least I think that's what they were aiming at with the design.
Yeah, I agree with that. It looks better than the one we got.
Starting at the bottom with Graham, how do you rate this one out of 10?
Like most episodes of Doctor Who, it has its good points. I just can't get past that design. I'll be generous. 6.5 out of 10.
Okay, Texas Tim?
I don't know what you guys were watching, but this was a very tightly plotted, excellent episode of Doctor Who. I'm going to give it a 9.5.
All right. Okay, Paul?
I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10.
All right. AJ?
That's a 5 from me, unfortunately. Sorry.
Connor?
Gotta be a 2. Sorry.
Okay, Philip?
You know what? If I was 5 years old or younger, I would have enjoyed it, but I'm not. So I'm giving it a 4.
Okay, Bo?
7.5.
All right. DWC?
Yeah, I really remember it, so I should rate high.
Okay, and Josh?
I would probably give it a 4.5 just because the pacing was so messed up and it was so hard to follow for me personally on the first rewatch. It was like nothing special, so probably a 4 or 4.5.
Okay, then. I can go with that. I really don't want to slam on this one. I really don't, because it had a lot of great points to it. There were just a couple places here and there where it kind of stuttered, but then there was also where it was just running all over the place. So I hate to be evil, but the most I can give it's a 7. I can't go any higher than that. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't Love and Monsters horrible, but once again, I just lost interest after a while. It just didn't really catch me. And I'm just hoping that next season Chibnall will let some other people's right, because it's becoming a trend where, sure, Jodie's now found her feet, but at the same time, I don't know. It's just I'm getting tired of the alien creature that's unintentionally harmful. It's like, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm too old-fashioned. So, folks, join us next week when we visit. Apparently, we're going to go back to 1947, as well as some stuff that's tying in with the present. Yaz's grandma is having some temporal stuff going on, and I don't mean the insurer has gone bad, as we go into the demons of the Punjab. So join us then. We'll see y'all then. Have a good one. Take care.